She was an angry, bitter, blaming victim who became a multi-award and medal-winning author, forgiveness coach, and motivational speaker. But first, welcome to Imagine Peace, the podcast that invites you on a transformative journey toward a world filled with harmony and understanding. Together, let's ignite the flame of peace within ourselves and radiate it outward so we can have a future where unity prevails. This is Imagine Peace, where dreams become reality. Join us as we explore the power of compassion, the beauty of diversity, and the potential for positive change. Welcome to Imagine Peace, the podcast sponsored by 10 Million for World Peace. Check out our daily 7-minute guided meditations and our 3 Masters Healing Circles at 10millionforworldpeace.org. Carolyn C.J. Jones is our guest today, and she is a multi-award and medal-winning author, forgiveness coach, and motivational speaker. Her books, Opening the Gates of the Heart and The Art of Forgiveness, both are medal winners, bronze, silver, and gold for spiritual healing, self-help, spirituality, and world peace. CJ's rich and humorous speaking style draws in her audiences, leaving them filled with knowledge that happiness and joy, peace, and freedom are achievable for them. CJ grew to love varnishing teak wood as she was a former sailor who lived aboard a 45-foot traditional sailboat. And although not currently in the boating world, she plans to return to it one day. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with her cherished kitties. She enjoys designing and building spaces such as kitchens, baths, antique cars, and boats. Working on these spaces is a spiritual activity, as is decorating her home. Welcome, CJ. We are really thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
So I guess we know that you did not always live in a state of peace, but talk to us. Tell us what led you to become a peace advocate and to pursue peace.
I would have to say it's that I learned to forgive. And that's what led me to my world of peace. That's after having spent 30 years resentful of my upbringing. I ran into a situation with an unrequited love that, well, let me back up a minute.
Okay.
For that 30 years, I drank voraciously. And then I hit my bottom when I was rejected by this love of my life. I ended up getting sober, and 4 years into it, I discovered a way to forgive my parents. And the peace that I felt was immediate and immense. And so from that point forward, I have vowed to share with others my story and how I got to peace so that they too can get to peace.
Well, that's wonderful. So actually, sobriety was the beginning of your peace journey. But how did
Yes.
you learn to forgive so you could find peace?
Well, there's a story. I was about 3 years sober and I was doing a self-appraisal, looking specifically at the ways in which my behavior had led to the demise of the relationships I'd had with a few men in my life. What I realized was I used to get drunk and yell and scream at them that they were worthless and would never amount to anything. Oh, I was horrified to remember this. Thank goodness they've all forgiven me. But more to the point was, I didn't even mean it about them. I meant it about myself. When I realized that, I had this huge aha moment because it stood to reason and it was logical that all those years my father called me worthless, and said I would never amount to anything. He meant it about himself, not about me. That was life changing, Marbeth, because suddenly I realized I felt compassion for him, and I saw him as a fellow human being who was wounded just like me.
And so you were able to have the compassion and forgiveness for your father.
Yes, and that changed everything for me.
That's really beautiful. I love
Thank
that.
you.
So is your father still around?
He's not. He died in 2022 of COVID.
Well, how wonderful that you had the opportunity to experience the compassion and the forgiveness while he was still alive.
Yes, I was very fortunate.
That really is a wonderful gift. And did that shift your relationship with him?
A little bit. I didn't really talk to him about having forgiven him. I was not able to speak with him about it, really. Well, one time my mother asked me why I was in the forgiveness world. And I said, because I learned to forgive my ex-husband. And then one day she asked again, and I was honest, and I said, because I learned to forgive you and dad. Well, she got indignant and wanted to know what they had done that I had to forgive them for.
Uh-oh.
So we had a little bit of a discussion, and then I told them the story that I tell about how I discovered forgiveness, which is the story I just told, and silence on the other end of the line. And then I repeated the same thing to my father about the story that I tell about him and how I discovered forgiveness for him.
And so what did he say?
Nothing.
Yeah. Well,
Silence.
yeah, but the thing is that really forgiveness is not about the other person.
You're
It's
right.
for you.
That's
And
right.
and what that did was it cleared the air for you so that you were able to see them through different eyes, through eyes of love.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I would think that would have made or could have made your relationship with them a bit more gentle.
I suppose it was in a way. We lived 3,000 miles apart, so
Okay.
it was not as if I could walk over there or go over there and interact in person. So it was all by phone.
Okay.
And I think that was a bit of a stopper for us getting closer.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. So, um, what are some of the techniques that or tools that you use to bring peace for yourself and others on a daily basis?
A self-appraisal, amazingly
Ooh,
enough. When I look at
self-appraisal.
myself and my behaviors, including my bad and mean behaviors, I become empowered because I know what I did and I know that I can correct it. And so that's very empowering.
It is if you don't judge and compare yourself to other people and I think it's also a matter of watching your self-talk, you know.
Yes.
So I think that's great that you are appraising yourself every day. What do you do about the self-talk?
I talk back to myself
Ha,
and I say, now, Carolyn, in fact, I say it out loud. I talk
good.
to myself out loud a
Hmm.
lot. And I say, this is not true. This is not the truth. What is the truth? And then I look at that. The other thing I do is I temper everything with gratitude.
Nice. So give me
Yeah.
an example of how that would work.
For example, oh, I'm not coming up with anything.
Well, say like you saw yourself, you were doing your appraisal and you were feeling a bit of shame because you maybe were snippy to someone the day before.
Okay, I would be grateful that I have the opportunity, number one, to recognize that behavior, and number two, to be able to go back to that person and apologize. So, in that sense, I'm correcting that behavior.
Good.
So,
And
I'm
and do you
grateful
need to
for that.
apologize to them in person or what do you do?
I try and apologize in person.
Good. Very cool. And
Yes.
that how does that shift you?
Oh, it just gives me peace. I
Oh,
feel inner peace.
very nice. Do you meditate every day?
I'm not a meditator. I do things like when I used to varnish. That was a great way to meditate.
Oh yeah.
And now I get it by petting my kitties
Oh,
or dusting and doing housework. Amazingly enough, I meditate when I'm doing those things. I get in a zone.
yeah. It's like you're right there in the here and now, practicing mindfulness.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So do you have any other techniques that you do?
Compassion. I try and look with
Nice.
compassion and empathy at people.
Very nice. That's beautiful. So I know you've written a couple of books, Opening the Gates of the Heart and The Art of Forgiveness. Now, those are both medal winners. Um,
Yes,
yeah. So tell me about your books.
the art of forgiveness, a promise of peace, is about my fall from my drinking and how I went from there to peace using the yippee method of healing. And I call it the yippee method so you can go, yippee, I'm going to find peace. I'm going to find freedom.
I love that. Well, we had 10 million for world peace. We're all about peace, about world peace, and we lead daily 7-minute world peace meditations
Oh,
so that people can join us from all over the world. And it's online over Facebook and YouTube. So I know that you also are interested in world peace. Is there anything that you do to promote it?
I practice it and I
Beautiful.
talk about it.
I love that. It's wonderful. So, um, is there anything else that you would like to share with us about that you'd like to discuss? I think you have an upcoming program.
Yes, I do. But first, I want to talk about the yippee method a minute.
Okay, please do.
Yeah, yippee is an acronym and it stands for yearn, investigate, process, practice, evolve, and empower. It's six
Ooh,
stages that you go through that I walk you through that teach you how to forgive. That's all spelled out in my book, The Art of Forgiveness.
that's beautiful.
Now I have an upcoming program, Sacred Spaces of an Open and Forgiving Heart is the name of it.
Nice.
I'm going to be using my two books in the course to richen it up a bit. And so I have reference to my books in the course, and people can avail themselves of the peace that they find in my books, from my books.
Very nice. Well, that's great. Do you have anything else you'd like to share before we close?
Just that begins March 1st, and soon I will be having the link appear on Facebook where you can register.
How can people
Yeah.
find you?
I'm on Facebook under Carolyn CJ Jones, and I pop right up.
Wonderful. Well, I'd love to have you pop up in my Facebook feed.
All right. That sounds like a plan.
It does. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to have you here today.
Oh,
And
thank you for having me.
yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Imagine Peace is brought to you by 10 Million for World Peace. Join our daily 7-minute guided meditations for world peace and monthly healing circles at 10millionforworldpeace.org. Together we can create a peaceful, happy planet.